President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has declared a state of emergency on food security. Special Advisor to the President, Special Duties, Communication and Strategy, Dele Alake, announced the development at the Presidential Villa, Abuja, yesterday. Alake, in a statement, said the federal government would in the coming weeks deploy savings from subsidy removal to food production, including other measures geared to reducing the price of food in the market. In the meantime, the cost of food continues to soar. Latest statistics show a 24% increase in May 2023 compared with prices in May last year. Joining us now is Dr. Kester Ono, a senior research fellow at Nigeria Institute of International Affairs. Dr. Ono will be discussing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's state of emergency declaration on food security in Nigeria. Good morning, Dr. Ono, and welcome to the morning show.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me once again.
Dr. Ono, thank you for joining us.
The
government is talking about food security, food sustainability. Some of the elements of that proposal, as pronounced yesterday, includes commodity boards to strengthen the food chain to the advantage of farmers. Two, they also talked about linking food security to national security. Three, the government also talked about the river basins. We have 11 of them being, activated. Let me use that word, because those river basins look like they have been completely inefficient. So what do you think in terms of the proposals? Beyond the rhetoric, because I talked about presidential rhetoric being, hacked up so heavily, but what Nigerians want is not rhetoric. What they want is outcomes.
Thank you, Dr. Ruben. Before we talk about food security, we must first and foremost talk about human security. And human security, food security is just an appendage of human security. And human security just emerged in the early 90s, but was popularized in 1994 UNDP reports, which came to address the inadequacies of military security. And when we are talking about human security, we are not talking about looking at the individual as the referent object of security. Because in the past, we used to look at the state as the container of security. But we've discovered that even the state itself can become a source of threat to the individual. After all, state is an abstract concept. But when we talk about the individuals that live within the police, they are the ones that both the policies and the plans of the government impact upon. Then coming to food security, we talk about what is food security. Food security simply means is the state of having reliable access to sufficient quantity of affordable, nutritious food. And then we had the government making it a matter of, there's an emergency yesterday, national emergency. Well, it's obvious, it's long overdue. But then when we look at other issues, we've seen the plan he has rolled out, some of the things he's going to do, talking about distributing fertilizer to the farmers and even to households and the sharing grains and all these things. These are laudable ventures. But considering the price of food in the market today and the excruciating pains that commoners are facing, we are now thinking what can address the immediate need, even though the aid on there's a special duty communication and strategy that is Mr. Dele Alake has emphasized that there are other strategies to cushion, because he made mention of both the short-term, the medium, and the long-term plan, But people are desperate. They want to see the immediate solution to the crisis we are having now. Because if you look at it, we are talking about food security. There are 4 dimensions when we talk about food security. In the first one, you talk about physical availability of food. And there is no doubt that when you go to the market, you see food everywhere. You see the gari, you see the rice, you see the beans, you see the yam. Then we come to the second point, which is economic and physical access to the food. How many Nigerians can afford this food? Then we come to the third one, which is food utilization. We are not even talking about food. We are not talking about food, that is the body consuming food that can give the required nutrient for the body to grow. So that's the third one. And then the fourth one, we have the stability of all these 3 dimensions over time. That over time, we are talking about sustainability. So these are the components that makes up what? The food security. So the government, they have itemized the plans and the process they want to follow. But the question is, these plans, will it be enough to solve the immediate need we have in our society today?
Right. Thank you very much. Now, talking about human security, one of the things that Mr. Dele Alake also announced was that moving food security under the National Security Council, especially with regards to providing security for farmers. And that's one of the things we've talked about, that one of the things that's affected food production in Nigeria is this issue around security and farmers feeling able to go to their farms, stay overnight until without fear of being attacked. How can we respond to this? Because we can't talk about all these measures, storage, transport, but if people cannot go to their farms, if people don't feel safe enough, then there's no point. We won't even have anything to transport or store.
Well, talking about food security, it talks about providing adequate security to the farmers. If we look at the security operatives we have, or the military and the other paramilitary agencies, it's obvious that due to the crisis of insecurity we have in Nigeria, you look at the northeast, you look at the northwest, you look at the southeast, we have a whole quagmire of insecurity. And the security operatives we have, they are trying. But if you look at it, you discover that they have been overstretched. And you look at the porosities of our borders, the inability of the agencies to cover or to adequately man those borders. Then such spaces, we have ended up creating a safe haven for terrorist organizations for them to thrive. So for us to deal with food security, just like he said, there is need, to empower our security personnel, and even to look at our security architecture. I know he made mention of that security architecture in his address. To look at our security architecture, to see the ways we can empower them so that they can be effective in their operations.
All right. So we've looked at all of this. We've looked at nutrition absorption and all of that. How can we help ensure that we deliver appropriate nutrition to an average Nigerian now, as we speak, owing to the fact that this money that has even been given to 12 million households, just $10 per day. If you want to get protein, maybe one egg. If you want to get fat and oil, if you want to get carbohydrate, that will not go a long way. The price of food, how can we get that nutrition to Nigerian children, most especially? And their nutrition uptake is one of the poorest in the world. How can we do it quickly?
Well, I think that we will be too adventurous to be talking about nutrition at this particular point. I think the question will be, how can we get at least 2 square meals? We are not talking about nutrition now, because if you look at the effect of the subsidy removal on the average Nigerian household, you will discover that, it has created a serious challenge. For example, you look at the minimum wage. Up till now, the minimum wage is about 30,000, and I'm not sure that it's even all the states that are paying 30,000. And if the minimum wage is 30,000, and a bag of rice is about 40-something to 50,000. Last week, I bought 3 tubers of yam. A tuber of yam goes for about 4,000. I bought 3 tubers about 12,000. So, and that 3 tubers can hardly last just for me alone, it can hardly last for 1 week. So if you are now talking about an average family in Nigeria that have about, let's say, about 5, a father and a mother, and maybe 3 children. You understand? That is the average family in Nigeria today. So how can they feed? So we don't need to talk about nutrition. We need to talk about how to put basic food, not about.
So even if it's not nutrition, even if it's too much carbohydrate without protein,
we are not even talking
let's
about
eat it first.
Yes. Because some people are now eating, they're not even talking about meat, they're not talking about fish. In fact, egg is even a strange language to some families today. So we are talking about maybe gari and the cassava, and the yam is even
a luxury.
A luxury for many
Even
families.
beans, rice is luxury.
The taste of the pudding is in the eating. Every government comes along, they talk about food security, they talk about releasing food from the National Grains Reserve and all of that. But what is the effect? Who gets what? So I think the policy is one thing. The implementation is another thing. And the implementation will be determined by how well that policy has been formulated and the structures put in place. But we'll see. We'd like to thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you
Honor,
very much.
for joining us again on The Money Show. Always a delight to have you here.